Hey everyone, Kyle once again, aka Jurassic Godzilla fan. Welcome back to another review. And the next horror film that I'm gonna be reviewing today, um, which is another horror film I think I really do enjoy. Um, which is personally one of it's a Tim Burton film. Which I personally enjoy. His I believe it's his best film that he's made. I know, I know. So I would put this one next to Batman, which Batman I absolutely love Batman. I would put that one also one of his. I would pick one of his best films. I would pick Batman, and Batman, and I would pick this film right here, which is my opinion. But because I really enjoy both of those films. Love Batman Returns. Great sequel. Um, But some of the films Bruce Lee he directed, like Dark Shadows, and Alice in Wonderland. I know Alice in Wonderland made over $1 billion in big opening weekend when it first came out. I was never real personally never I was never a fan of Alice in Wonderland personally though, but or no, I was never a fan of Dark Shadows anyway. And I don't like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I just don't like that remake. I don't. So. But before all that, and years before he did Batman, after he did Batman, Batman Returns, he did this horror film which I absolutely do enjoy, Sleepy Hollow. Basically, took a classic, tale, and made it to a good, I would say not well, personally, not. I don't think it was never scary though, but well, except for one scene though. But I would say, I would say it's a good horror. I would say it's a good old horror film based on a classic tale, And also, I do have the poster right here, and I also have the VHS tape though, but it's it's been put away though. I do also have the VHS tape to this film though. So, but like I said, I would think this is his best film. Next to Batman. Um, and then when the first film came out, it got some really good reviews. It's 7.5 on IMDb. That thing's really great. It has a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think personally that could be very much more higher. Like in the 70s. Ratings. But 67% is fair enough. But me, I think I put it more in the 70s. And the film stars Johnny Depp, which Tim Burton used a lot in most of his films. It's also not only Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, and among other casts, you have Miranda Richardson, Michael Gambon, which he took over to play as as Dumbledore after Richard Harris passed in the Harry Potter film. So Michael Gambon, he took over playing of Dumbledore. Casper Van Dien, Jeffery Jones, who was the funny principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and also Christopher Walken, who plays the Headless Horseman. But also that note that professional stuntman Ray Park, who played Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1 and Toad in the first X-Men film, he also was shared to play in the stunts for the Headless Horseman as well. But Christopher Walken also had his fair share as playing the Headless Horseman as well. And also Michael Goff, who played Alfred the Butler in Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher's Batman films, in all four of those. So a pretty good sizable cast, as in Sleepy Hollow. Some of the good reviews on here on the cover says, a marvel, bold, exciting, and full of visions. Jeff Giles, Newsweek. Joel Siegel, Good Morning America, an American classic. And then Kenneth Turan of Los Angeles Times, an ultimate Tim Burton movie. I agree on that. I agree on that because personally I think it's one of Tim. I think it's his top two best films. Um, and it was also nominated for a lot of awards. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards for Best Costume Design, Best Cinematography, and Best Art Direction. It won for Best Art Direction. That was pretty good. A lot of Saturn Awards, Satellite Awards, BAFTA Film Awards. So a lot of nominations, and including 3 Academy Awards, and it won one. It was released around the time of the Thanksgiving weekend, November 19th, 1999. On for 105 minutes, but it goes at a good pace, not boring. It was also not only a critical success, for critics. It also did really well at the box office. On a budget of $100 million budget, I think it was well spent. Made over it was 101 or 2 million here in the U.S. and overall made 206 million worldwide. So it was a box office success as well. And on the opening weekend, it opened up at number 2 behind the James Bond film The World Is Not Enough. So it didn't get number 1 though, but still was very successful. And also that among which is not only Tim Burton directed this, but one of the executive producers was Francis Ford Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola, who made who directed the Godfather, who directed all 3 of the Godfather trilogy, who was the executive producer on this. I'm gonna make sure I get it right, because I know Francis Ford Coppola, but I know he directed The Godfather, but I just want to make sure I don't want to be incorrect here. Yes, he directed The Godfather. Okay. I knew I was some reason I was down myself that he didn't direct it, but he did direct he did direct The Godfather. Yes, he directed the Godfather. He directed the Godfather trilogy. He directed Apocalypse Now, The Outsiders, then Bram Stoker's Dracula. So yeah, so the director of the Godfather trilogy was also served as the executive producer on Sleepy Hollow, which I think was nice. And also, personally, I think it's one of Johnny Depp's better films, because he's not playing, characters like he did, like with the Lone Ranger or Jack Sparrow, in the Pirates of the Caribbean films, And he's not playing one of those, or in Dark Shadows, or Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter. He's not playing none of those kind of characters. He's playing like like a more serious kind of role character, if you get what I'm saying, like we did in Nick of Time, that was another film we started with Christopher Walken, So yeah. And so I like Johnny Depp much better, acting wise in this film, So in the special features in this, there's a commentary with director Tim Burton behind the legend of Sleepy Hollow featurette, interviews with the cast and crew, and 2 trailers, So decent features, But getting into almost 10 minutes in, I ain't talking about the film yet though, but so let's get into it now. This is a film. like when the film opens up, it opens up, you know, with this guy, you know, with this guy who's riding along, you know, next to a cornfield, you know, and the driver driving the horses, he's been decapitated, you know, and then he for some reason he just goes and jumps off it and runs to the cornfield to see a scarecrow with a pumpkin head, and he gets decapitated, you know. Um, then it cuts to New York in the year 1979, 1799, just before the turn of the century, you know. Johnny Depp plays the infamous character Ichabod Crane, um, who was a police officer, and he, you know, what is how is he giving this speech, you know, of using he wants to, you know, use more traditional methods, you know, of favoring of using more investigative techniques, you know, to solving murderers and stuff like that, you know. And he's, you know, and he's standing in court, you know, and Christopher Lee, I forgot to mention, Christopher Lee is in this in a small role, just for this one scene, you know. Christopher Lee, he plays as this judge, you know, sitting there as a judge, you know. He tells Ichabod that you will take your investigative techniques to a place uptown called Sleepy Hollow, where there's been 3 murders where all the victims were decapitated, and tells them, you know, remember, it is you who will be tested, Ichabod Crane. And that's the only time you see Christopher Lee. He was only in there just for that scene. That's it, you know. So he's riding across the country to the town of Sleepy Hollow. You know, he goes up to the mansion of the Van Tassel mansion, where he meets Balthus Van Tassel, played by Michael Gambon, his daughter, Katrina, played by Christina Ricci. Then there was also another guy there, played by Casper Van Dien as Brom. Casper Van Dien from Starship Troopers. So he said to investigate the murders of Sleepy Hollow, and the main like the doctor, the Reverend, the Van Tassel, who was like the landlord, you know, and the notary, played by Michael Goff, and magistrate, also played by what is that guy, Richard Griffiths, who played, you know, the funny foster parent in Harry Potter, you know, the Harry Potter films. He was that the funny foster parent for Harry, you know, who appeared in a few of the films, like in the first 3 films, you know, the funny stepfather. He's in this as well. So Ichabod, he's telling, you know, about the 3 murders, saying is anyone suspected, and they're all looking at each other, thinking how much of their superiors have told you. Reverend tells them, you know, their heads have not found severed. Their heads have not found at all. So Van Tassel tells them the story of the Headless Horseman, which he was a Hessian mercenary to from the American Revolutionary War, from that time, you know. He rides this big black horse, and he, you know, he goes to ascend in there, you know. He didn't do it just for the money. He'd do it because he enjoys killing people, you know, but chopping off their heads, you know. And that's played by the Headless Horseman, like I said, played by Christopher Walken right there, which I always thought, you know, how Christopher Walken looked was really cool yet creepy, you know, with those crazy eyes, you know, the messed up hair and the sharp teeth, you know. ha, ha, you know, him doing that all the time, you know. Because like, I like Christopher Walken. I thought he was like cool, yet creepy character. How the way he looked, you know. So, but then when the time was snowing, his horse gets shot, and he goes into the woods, finds these two girls, you know. He says shh, you know, and one of the girls, of course, snaps a stick, you know, on purpose. He kills a few more soldiers, but then he gets stabbed, and he gets his own. Another soldier chops off his head with his own sword, you know, and is buried. Well, what Van Tassel saying, you know, what was planted in that ground was a seed of evil, you know, and it has been like this for the past 20 years. And he says that the Ichabod is like shaking a little bit because he's holding the coffee cup, you know. But Ichabod Crane, you know, he knows that he doesn't believe in that. He's like, you know, murder doesn't mean no ghosts come from the grave. We have murderers in New York without the benefit of ghouls and goblins. And Baltus is like, you're a long way from New York, Constable. So and then he was saying, you know, the assassin is a man of flesh and blood, and I will discover him. So then later in the night, you know, there's another guy who was like on watch, you know, for the Horsemen, which is named Jonathan Masbeth. He sees he's like in this small lookout place that cuts to a wide open shot of a gun noise, and all of a sudden he just ends up running in the woods, you know. Which show us saying how you can go from there and then up running in the woods, you know. What, did you get scared? You know, the horseman came up to that spot though. Maybe that's how he got into start running in the woods. I don't know. But anyway, just cuts to him running through the woods, then he gets his head chopped off. So then the next day, you know, they find the body without no head, and Johnny Depp, you know, he's doing, you know, and he's doing his inspecting, you know, thing, and there's like hoof prints, you know, the rider went alongside and then turned around and take the head, you know, and he's saying that there's no blood, you know, the wound was cauterized instant, you know, so then the next, you know, that they bury the father, it has a son, you know, young Masbeth, you know, and you know, tell him that he'll gladly serve him, you know. Then Magistrate Phillips, you know, he's telling him that Jonathan Masbeth was not the fourth victim, but the fifth, and he's telling him there's 5 bodies in 4 graves. So he digs him up and finds that the third victim, the widow Winship, you know, not only had her head cut off, but had been stabbed in the stomach, and wondering why. He does like an autopsy, you know, and he has this little gadgets that he made himself, you know, and he's basically using this to poke it into the stomach, and some blood squirts in his eye, you know. And it's found out that the widow was pregnant with a child, you know. So then there was like this like later that night there was like someone was like pulling a prank on him, you know, imitating as a headless horseman. They throw like a flaming pumpkin at him, you know, with a couple of jokers, you know. And also personally, you know, I think that personally, I think there was a couple scenes I think that could have been just not needed or wasn't you know, pointless though. Is when, you know, when Ichabod was having flashes or dreams of his mother, you know. You know, her when he was a child, you know. I think personally, I think those scenes could have been cut. I think personally they were not needed, you know. So, but then later the next night, you know, the magistrate Phillips, he was about to leaving, and he was about to leave and tell him that he knew that the widow was having a child, and he was about to tell the name of the father when the headless horseman comes, you know, and he gets decapitated as well, you know. And it was like funny because he had this little crossing. My talisman protect me from the horsemen. And when he gets attacked, um, when he gets his head cut off, I was like, yeah, a lot of great protection that thing did, you know. So yeah, then his head roll down, and the horseman takes it. And now Ichabod Crane, you know, he finally believes that the headless horseman is real, you know. Um, and then the next day he goes out into the western woods where people will not go into, you know. And young master goes with him. Katrina follows them, and which they go and find the tree of the dead, you know, which is like how it looks like this right here. And you know there's blood on it, and Ichabod that he goes and chops it, you know, and there's a lot of blood keeps on splurting at him, you know. And yeah, there was like I said, it's R-rated for a reason, you know, because Tim Burton make a very dark, thrilling, you know, horror film, you know. There was a lot of good gore in this, you know, especially like these gore when the blood gets squirting out of him, you know, when he opens up the bark, you know, there's a bunch of heads inside that tree, you know, a bunch of those heads that the horseman took, you know. And he suggested that this is a gateway to hell, you know. And he sees the horseman's grave up top, and someone already dug there, you know, and took the skull. And the horseman comes out of it and goes back in town and kills another guy named Killian and his wife and his child. And Casper Van Dien, he goes and shoots him, but he's not dead though. And Johnny Depp, you know, tells him that he knows something is up, and he's saying that he's not after you. But Casper Van Dien doesn't listen. He goes and fights him with just a couple of sighs, you know. Ichabod joins in though and says they can't win. He goes, you know, with this what is that thing, you know? It's like a short bridge, you know. I forgot what that thing is called though. But the horseman walks on top of it, stabs Ichabod. Then, well, since he was not after Casper Van Dien, instead he goes and cuts him in half. And then when he gets like he discovers that Ichabod discovered that the horseman does not kill at random. His victims are chosen by someone who has took his skull, you know. But then you have another dream sequence about when his mother been like, because whoever, I think was it the father or of Ichabod, I don't know, goes and takes his mother and put in that torture chamber, puts him in this thing, you know, and that's how he got his he got spooked, and he shows us he has these dots, you know, scars on his hands because his hand got stabbed to one of those like a spiked seat, you know, and then there was like that was, and the one thing that I thought was really creepy. It's like you see his mother's eyes is like this, like that, you know, and it comes out with all blood spilling out, you know, like this, you know. Okay, that was like only one creepy, scary scene right there, you know. Personally, you know, I just skip that. I always skip the scene because I just don't want to see that scene again, you know. But there was a lot of blood just, you know, pouring out of that thing. So, and now we continue with this investigation. He knows that there is some kind of a conspiracy here. You know, goes and see the notary Hardenbrook, you know, played by Michael Goff, tells him that he finds out that there was the first victim, Peter Van Gare, which was the guy who got decapitated from the start. You know, he made a new will. You know, left it to his the widow and her unborn child. You know, leave everything to him. It was all about the fortune. You know, and since the son is dead and the widow is dead, you know, the fortune passed off to the next of kin, you know. And the reason why Jonathan Maspeth, he got decapitated because he helped bear witness to sign on the will, you know. That's why he's dead. He's like in Ichabod is like this, you know, like first a father and son slain by a horseman raised from the grave to chop heads. Then up pops a widow with the claim for the fortune. Off with her head, you know. Murder against murder, you know. And the servant, because John the Master, he served them. He was a servant. He was summoned up the night the father and son quarreled over the new will. John the Master was summoned upstairs to bear witness. Here's his signature. I'm afraid it was his death warrant. Young Maspeth. The horseman came for him. And he knows that because it passed up to the next of kin, and he suspected it was Baltus Van Tassel all along behind this whole thing. And Katrina gets very upset because he thinks that her father is the murderer, which she believes is not. So, but also later there's a huge spider crawls under his bed, and young Maspeth, he moves, and there was this big pink chalk drawing of a design was called the Evil Eye. You know, someone's casting spells or curses against you. You know. So, but then then later, you know, that her stepmother, played by Miranda Richardson, as what's called Lady Van Tassel, but you know, she shows that Johnny Depp she has a cut on her scar because earlier it was in the middle of the night, he snuck out, he was following somebody, and he sees a man and woman, you know, making out, you know, and he sees that was her. She purposely cut her hand, you know, with some guy, you know, but you don't see him though. You don't see who it is though, but later on you know who it is. Tells him that he mustn't tell, you know, and but when her husband comes in, she says she's gonna go pick flowers, and the horseman comes up, but you don't see nothing happen to her, you know, because of the reason. If you haven't seen the film, you know the reason. So everyone gets gathering at the church. The horseman arrives, but he can't cross the gate, you know, because this is like a holy place. And he like throws an axe within the boundaries, and it disintegrates. The other three men are fighting, you know, again, you know, and the doctor says, you know, he was going to tell him the truth, but the reverend kills him by hitting him in the head with this big cross, and Van Tassel shoots Jeffery Jones. And he's like, you know, everyone tell him to stay back. You know, he says, "There's a conspiracy here, and I will seek it out." And there's another good gory death, you know, because the horseman took like a piece of a fence post and tied it, and just throws and stabs right through Michael Gambon. You know, it was all blade up fence post like this, you know. And he gets yanked through the window, and his head just past the gate long enough for the horseman to cut his head off. So he knows that Johnny Depp knows that and he sees that Katrina had like this pink chalk, and knows that she's been putting the evil eye there, you know. So he's like, it was an evil spirit that possessed you, you know. Pray that it's satisfied, you know. And he goes and burns her her books, you know, that had the witch stuff in it. He goes and burns it. And then he's prepared to leave, you know. As he's leaving, he sees the dead body of the supposed dead body of the Lady Van Tassel with the cut on her hand. But you know, something is not right, you know. So he goes back to the morgue, and he says, looks at the wound, and says, by the time this cut was made, this woman was already dead, you know. And revealed that the whole time that the Lady Van Tassel, she was behind the whole thing, and she took the horseman's skull and kidnaps Katrina and tells her the whole story. That Peter, the first victim, Peter, the guy was this woman's a landlord, this family's landlord, you know. When her father died, you know, the Vanguard evicted them, you know, and her mother was but no one would took her in because her mother was suspected of witchcraft. So the two girls lived out in the woods, and it shows that it was those two girls, who was who saw the horseman when he was alive, and that one girl saw was this um was which her real name was Archer, she saw the death, and she offered her soul to Satan to raise the horseman for the grave to avenge her who killed the Bangarets who evicted them, and Van Tassel stole their home, So that's the reason. That's all the reason why, and the only thing was left to withstand with her between who before she inherits everything, she has to kill Katrina because she's the one who will still have everything after her father's death, So Johnny Depp, he goes over there, which they're at a windmill, which I don't know which I never knew how they were at the windmill the whole time, I never knew when they were the whole time when they were at the windmill, so I'll never know that part. So, but also the young Madsmith, he also Zarya follows him as well. So he arrives there, and as the horseman arrives, Johnny Depp gets the idea, he's gonna they all climb to the roof, and he burns the place, goes and burns the place, and as they escape from the sails, and there's a really good nice explosion as the really good explosion of the windmill exploding, Nicely, that was a really good explosion right there. But of course he's not dead, and they give chase, through the woods. Yeah, and then the horseman has fights with Johnny on top of the carriage, and the part of the carriage breaks up the horses right away, and the horseman is still standing on top of the carriage that's been disconnected, and he falls first, and the fall lands on top of him. Which that's some of the stunts like I said is played by Ray Park, but at all times also Christopher Walken he still plays as the headless horseman, but when it's the fight scenes, the stunts, that's Ray Park though. But they get to the tree of the dead where the Archer, I'll just call her Archer, because that was her name was, her family name was, so I'm just calling her Archer. So Archer is there, and she shoots Johnny Depp though, but he's not dead because he had that little blue book that Christina gave him, that stopped the bullet. They're fighting, crawling away towards the skull though, but the Archer gets knocked out, and just about when the horseman decapitates her Katrina, Johnny Depp gives him back the skull and puts it on, and you see the head is starting to be becoming human again, and there is how the head is how is the head transforming back is CGI though, but it looks pretty decent effect how the head is transforming back to human form, Then the horseman's head is back the way it was, Christopher Walken, with those crazy eyes and the teeth and the hair, and his horse, he gets on his horse, and he picks up Archer, and as the tree opens the gate back to hell, and she looks at him, he's like this, and he also is he kisses her, but yet also kind of biting her because she's bleeding, and that's how. And Chris Wong, the horseman, he's and he goes, rise back into the tree, and you see only her hand is sticking out of the tree, So with the mystery finally solved, Ichabod, takes Katrina and young Madsmith back to New York, where they will back in just in time for the new centuries, and he's making young Madsmith carry all the bags, and he's like, you'll soon get your bearings, young Madsmith. The Bronx is up, the battery's down, and home is this way. Just in time for the new century. So yeah, I've always enjoyed Sleepy Hollow. I would say personally, let's say I think it's one of Tim Burton's best films, or I would say one of his best films. This film and Batman. That's all I think are his only two best films. Well, I enjoy Beetlejuice as well, you know, but sometime I will do like a top list of Tim Burton's films. But if I ever did, I would put this as number one and Batman number two. So because I said how the way the look of the film, I do like how the look of the film was, you know, the directing, um the setup, you know, the location, you know, all because that's why, you know, and the acting, you know, as well. I also do like the score by Danny Elfman. I like a lot of scores that's by Danny Elfman, you know, he's really good, especially for the Batman theme, you know, for Tim Burton's Batman. I like especially that theme, you know. The da 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 da, you know, that theme. Um, I've always enjoyed his scores for the films as well, you know. Just like recently, I liked his score. Recently, I liked his score from the from Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I did like his score for Mr. Peabody and Sherman, you know. So yeah, I've always enjoyed Danny Elfman as the music composer. Next to him and Jerry Goldsmith, you know, and Hans Zimmer. Those are like pretty much one of my three favorite music composers for films, you know, Dan Elfman, Jerry Goldsmith, Hans Zimmer, you know. So yeah, um, acting was good, you know. I did like Johnny Depp more in a more playing like a character, not playing like Mad Hatter or Jack Sparrow or Tonto, you know. Just like a character, just playing a regular guy who's trying to solve a mystery, you know. So yeah, Christina Ricci was good, you know. Other cast was good, especially Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken with that creepy face, you know. And well, of course, you know, most of the time it was him, and all stuff went during, like I said, during the fights and stunts. You know, that's Ray Park playing as the Headless Horseman for the stunts and stuff, you know. So yeah, I'm glad this film got the pass. You know, I'm glad it was a success at the box office. You know, I'm glad it won an Academy Award for Best Art Direction, and including all the stuff it was nominated for. So yeah, I've always enjoyed Sleepy Hollow. I got the show. I got the poster right here, again. And the tagline, heads will roll. Well, I only saw like only two heads roll for the film. That was like Magistrate Phillips and that guy Jonathan Masbeth heads rolling, you know. I see that's I'm just saying though. So yeah, so that's all I'll say. So that's my review for Sleepy Hollow. I really do enjoy it. One of Tim Burton's best films. So thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned for the next movie review later.